Hello and welcome to Tippcast with myself, Shane Stapleton, and Shane Brophy with me. We've been reunited after a few weeks apart, so it's great to get
now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great to get the old band back together and talk a bit of Tipperary GA, isn't it?
You need our August holidays too. We wouldn't have had it the old split season. We were able to take a few weeks off in August now as well. Sure, it's mighty stuff altogether. So wouldn't have had it if in the old days.
No, we wouldn't. Some amount of stuff is after happening in the last few days. Obviously, we'll talk about the last round of the group games in Tipperary GA. But also, Eoin Kelly has joined the Waterford setup under Davy Fitz. I know he's a Galway man, but you know, Johnny Kelly has become fairly synonymous with Tipperary GA in the last while with Borris and obviously now with Nina. He's after taking over as the Offaly manager, and Martin Maher of Borris is following in there as well. So there's plenty going on. Even we know now that the Tipperary champions, whoever they'll be, we obviously don't know at this stage. There's 10 teams left because there's preliminary quarterfinals. But the Tipperary champions will have to go to Ballygunner, the All-Ireland club champions. So nice little tall order there.
Jeez, I know the Munster Council do these draws every year, but the Tipperary representatives the last few years always seem to start away from home. It's whether it's in the Pearshig or Ballygunner or was Ballya, every time Tip nearly have to go first game out, it's away from home. It's going to be cruel for whoever gets it. And sure, I know we'll get onto it or not. You couldn't even pick a winner of the Tipperary Championship at this stage, so I don't think nobody will be planning ahead to being in probably Walsh Park on the 6th of November. Probably Mount Sion or assume potentially Ballygunner, but you never know that unbeaten run is going to come to a end sometime, and maybe Ozzy's going to do something big on Sunday.
Yeah, and he had a quiet enough semi-final, but he nearly drove them over the line against the Gunners last year, so you never know. Borris were home to Glen Rovers a couple of years ago. That went on in Thurles, of course, but other than that, as you say, it's been a weird fixture.
Played away, Lockmore have played away.
Clonoulty didn't they play away to the Pearshig?
Clonoulty played away, it's sort of, and things, small little things like that are a huge help. If you can just get off to a winning start, I know if potentially if the Tip champions beat the Waterford champions, they'll get a home semi-final. But I tell you, I always thought the old way was fairer, where last year Lockmore played Ballygunner in a Waterford venue. This year, if it was Tippy Waterford, it should be a home venue for the Tip champions. I think I always thought that was a lot fairer like that. Okay, if Lockmore don't win it, but the Tipperary champions this year would benefit slightly more from it as well. So we have to take it on the chin, and I suppose we have a lot of hurling to get through before we get that far.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's really unfair, and it is something that needs to be looked at in the next while. But sure, as with all things GA, it'll take a bit of time for it to get ironed out. What do you make of Eoin Kelly, one of Tipperary's favourite sons, washing up with the Waterford senior hurling team, where Davy Fitz is going to be manager, and Peter Queally, who's been managing Rowan Moore, and I think he's been involved with is it Sarsfields and Cork as well. I'll double check that. But he's obviously very, very experienced and well thought of.
Not surprised. I think with Owen and Davy go back a long number of years. I think when 20 plus years since Owen was in college, I think Davy was his manager. I think Owen was an LIT grad. So plus, look, he brings in a wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience. Being in with Tipperary, maybe potentially he's thinking, look, if I'm going to be Tipperary manager in the future, I've got to dip my toe in somewhere else, get a bit of experience, go down to Waterford, and I suppose potentially maybe guide them over the line. They're not far off it. The wheels came off this year midway through the championship, but look, they still have, I think, panel wise, I still think they're probably second to Limerick in the country. Look, and Davy always tends to get the first 2 years with Davy in any county seems to be the time to strike while the iron's hot. So I'm sure Owen is thinking, look, to go to Waterford, great opportunity, maybe potentially to win an All-Ireland if things come right.
Yeah, just even looking at the teams that have qualified for the knockout stages of the Tipperary Senior Hurling Championship. So Kilruane, McDonough's, Drom and Inch, Upper Church Drumban, Kiladangan, they all won their groups. Then Nina Aerogue, Thurles Sarsfields, Toom and Lockmore came in second place. Now, the divisional winners, Clonoulty, Rossmore from the west, and JK Brackens from the mid, they've come through as well. So Clonoulty will play Thurles Sarsfields, and JK Brackens will face Nina Air. They're tasty quarterfinals. Preliminary quarterfinals. And like you said, how do you pick a winner out of this?
Yeah, no, there's been no outstanding team so far. I think the team of the championship, I would say, so far are probably Drom and Inch. They're probably the team that probably exceeded maybe expectations, maybe so far. But
would you say Killerdangan are really warming up now all of a sudden?
They still haven't. They're still not firing as well as I've seen in the last few years. I think there's more in them, but whether it's going to come, I'm not certain. Like Lockmore are just hanging. You think Lockmore are struggling, yet they're unbeaten in their 3 group games. Like they're still there. Thurles are not convincing yet. I think they really need Ronan and Maher back. I think to go the whole way. I think their defense is a bit dodgy. Drom have been good. Like I wouldn't rule out anybody at this stage. I think the 4 teams this weekend is probably an extra. They don't want the extra game, but the 2 winners out of this weekend will carry momentum into those quarterfinals. And I think on the day, I think everybody can beat everyone else. Like so, I think it's set up nicely. Whether that's a good thing for Tipperary hurling overall, that we don't have maybe 1 or 2 teams really dominant, is maybe we're just in a phase at the moment. I think 4, 5, 6, 7 years time, I think Thurles Sarsfields could be a dominant factor in this county again. But I think maybe we should enjoy the openness of it for the moment.
Does it kind of show that the 4 groups of 4 and trying to these groups have been so level? Like just to remind people again, the first week that we were covering the group stages, 48 games were drawn. There hasn't been that many hugely one-sided games. Obviously, there's been a few games that have been won by 10 points and thereabouts. And sometimes that's just
then you have two of the divisional champions didn't get through from the group stage. It just shows you how valuable that is. Like Nina were very, very close maybe for them looking to a preliminary match as well as a preliminary quarterfinal. So it just shows you how relatively even the 16 teams are at the moment. Like you'd probably think of the 4 teams in relegation. I think they all probably struggled a bit to varying degrees this year.
But Tipperary actually were like not all that far away against both Borris and Thurles Sarsfields, losing both games by 6 points. So that's not too far away.
No, I think they would have. Yeah, I think if they were in a different group, they would have had a chance. Maybe.
And Mullinahone weren't far off being in a county semi-final last year.
No.
And McCarthy Borris showed good signs at times. Airog obviously have gone far in championships before. So, geez, if they're the teams in relegation, the Tip Senior Championship is full of strength. Yeah,
absolutely. I know that those 2 relegation semi-finals. I suppose whoever goes down is going to be unlucky. Was Mullinahone against Templederry, McCarthy against Anacardy. I think Mullinahone are the most vulnerable at the moment, but just with the injuries and they're on a bad run of form, like to lose by 14 points to Holy Cross, lost by 9 to 9 to Upper Church, and of course the first game against Toom they were behind a fair bit of the way until Eoin Kelly come on and arrested them. And I suppose maybe they're probably while they were in another 21 final last year, they were in the South under 19A final last weekend, so I'd like to have more talent coming, but maybe there probably could be in a transitionary period where they need some of the younger guys maybe to take up the slack from the likes of Eoin Kelly and Paul Curran and the like. And I suppose they'll be hoping the likes of Owen Fennelly and Alan Curran come back from injury. It sounded like they got worrying injuries last weekend.
And they were the second lowest scorers in the group stages, so obviously that doesn't augur too well. I suppose we'll dive into Group 1. Kilruane McDonough's 315, Clonoulty Rossmore 120. So this was the refixed game, of course, after the tragic scene a few weeks ago. And like it was nip and tuck the whole way until eventually Kilruane got across the line. So that's huge for them because, of course, they finished top of the group, whereas Clonoulty just finished level with Nina, but they're edged out into 3rd place, so their season is over.
Yeah, no, great win for Kilruane now. I suppose the pressure was really on them because they had to win the match to stay alive. And look, they just got there at the end. Sean McAdams' injury time point was enough to decide the game in their favour. And I suppose, I think it was kind of a result that satisfied everyone. Because look, while it was a competitive game that needs to be played. I don't think anybody in Clonalty would have taken any satisfaction after, I suppose, what happened a month ago if potentially maybe that ended in a draw or Clonalty won and Kilruane were knocked out of the championship. Like I think they're forevermore. They're two clubs that are really going to be joined at the hip emotionally. And look, they produced a good, if not a great game, but not really a free-flowing game of hurling. This was Kilruane got the job done in the end. But I think Clonalty would have to be relatively happy with how they went. I was thinking at the end of last year's championship, if you said a Clonalty full forward line had no Timmy Hammersley, no Conor Hammersley, and no Dylan Quirk, you said, where are they going to get the scores? And you think they still scored 120. They're supposed to have Cathal Burke back. To have Stephen Fern come 19 years of age. I think he's a great future. Danny Slattery, I think, another very, very good young player. So, and maybe if Conor Hammersley, if he's able to fly back for the match against Thurles Sarsfields next weekend, I think they'll give Thurles enough of it in the preliminary quarter final. But back to Kilruane, I suppose. Look, they're always a club when the backs are against the wall. They come out fighting and they generally produce a performance. And look, they got the result in the end, and they're top seed for a quarter final. And they'll, as I say, I would have thought maybe a couple of years ago was when Kilruane at their peak, but it's just the openness of this championship. It's there for anybody. If Kilruane could just get it going 3 days in a row, they could be county champions by the 23rd of October.
I misspoke there. I meant Clonalty had that preliminary quarter final, not that their season was over. But Jerome Cahill being man of the match, that won't escape the eyes of Liam Cahill if he can lure him back in. He scored 2 points. He was named at centre forward. And Niall O'Mara as well. I'm assuming that he's going to be back involved at Tipperary next year, but certainly because the likes of Craig Morgan, who had a brilliant season, getting injured. Obviously, Dylan Quirk is obviously will never be hurling again. It's just horrible even trying to put that sentence out there. And of course, Barry Heffernan has done his cruciate as well. The likes of Niall O'Mara will be very important next year for Tipperary. Yeah,
I know. It's just to have that blend of youth and experience. To say, Liam Cahill is no fool. Like he's not. He can't just go with a fresh panel. He needs a couple of experienced guys to hang in there. I would assume. You think Niall, he's had a year away. I suppose it's his perspective on it. Maybe he'd be happy enough to leave it alone. It's hard to know. Like if there's, I think I might have said it on this show before, if there's maybe two people that may be able to coax Jerome Cahill maybe to give Inter-County another go, it's Michael Beavens and Liam Cahill, who we had at underage. So, and you think if they can't do it, it won't happen. Like so. But look, they're coming along nicely. Like they feel that maybe they could have left the Nina game behind to destroy Mike Harkey. So look, on their day when they click, they're very, very good. Like so, they will. Nobody will fancy playing them in a quarter final or any stage from here on in.
Yeah, and no harm for Nina that they had the weekend off, I suppose. So it allows them time to build up nicely for the preliminary quarter final.
Yeah. No, I was trying to think of that. Like, would they? I actually think Nina probably wouldn't mind playing this game, because if they were waiting, they would be waiting 5 weeks. Whereas, okay, they're going in playing a Bracken's team, or coming off. They might be sharper. They're only coming off a week's rest, but I think that's going to be a fascinating game. We'll probably preview it there later on. But I think Nina are well settled. They're sure they're well adjusted to this stage without Barry Heffernan. I suppose. It looked like in the last game with Kilruane, Hugh Maloney was back centre back. I know he's no spring chicken, but look, I suppose mentally, in terms of experience, he would do a lot of that job at centre back, and he knows how to hold the fort. Have a few guys like Dara Quinn around him, Conor McCarthy, Adam Grattan. Like it's enough to maybe have the experience head back there, and hopefully maybe get the Heffernans, Jake Morris. Like Jake Morris is playing ridiculous hurling this year. He's taking his game to another level, and it'll be fascinating to see if he can take his inter-county game to another level next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit more about Brackens against Nina in a while. But Drom and Inch knocked out Borris Elite, near neighbours, parish boundaries, all that sort of crack, 115 to 17 points. But if you'll forgive me for leaving the Borris Lee hat on as always here, I was pulling my hair out because the amount of wides that Borris Lee had, 11 in the first half, so many of them were, desperate wides you just would not expect from the caliber of players. The frees weren't going right. It was just, I don't know, maybe the pressure of thinking we need to win by 12 points here or whatever, and snatching at chances. Dan missed an easy point at the start. Kevin Maher put a very gettable goal chance wide, and then all of a sudden up the other end, I think it was David Collins. He got onto a break and knocked one into the back of the net, and it kind of felt like that's the stuff and knocked out of Borris Lee, because there's too much of a mountain to climb at this stage.
Yeah, it's just supposed to stay with Borris Lee for the moment. It feels like a year that it never really went anywhere. I suppose apart from the first 12 minutes against Tumivara, where they looked in that North quarter final, the first game back in July or June, you think they looked on it. But after that, they've sort of been going in fits and starts, and it sort of feels like a wasted year, as if they've never really gotten it together for some reason. Like, you think that they've loads of, okay, maybe they've maybe a core panel of 16, 17, maybe 18 players they can rely on, but it just hasn't gelled for whatever reason this year. Like, it was always a long shot last weekend to go, and realistically they had to win by 13 to qualify, assuming Thurles got the win, which they did. Just, I suppose, it'd be interesting to see what happens next year. It was always going to be difficult. It didn't matter whether it was Brian Cody or Shane O'Neill coming in after Johnny Kelly, who was just so successful. And it just, I know you had your frustrations over their style of hurling with Johnny Kelly, but it was effective. They won more games than they lost. And that was always the fear I had for them this year, going with, I suppose, maybe trying to change the way they were playing, or maybe make it a bit more possession based, that it just mightn't click properly. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah, no, and look, I said many positive things about the Johnny Kelly era, and of course winning that county title and getting to the All-Ireland was unreal. But yeah, I was hoping for a little bit of an evolution, but maybe this year kind of showed that it's not going to happen in a straight line. The trajectory isn't going to move in a straight line, and you just wonder now, is the age profile, the way like the All-Ireland year, you had that perfect age profile of the county players, past and present, were still at that really good level. And maybe the younger lads coming through were just ready to come to the boil. And then obviously you have those players in the middle as well. And I just don't know if, if that window has passed in terms of how far the team can go. And I could be wrong, and I really, really hope I'm wrong. But because there's a lot of lads
I thought there was a couple of years
county underage players in the last couple of years. Yeah. So I do feel that Borris should be a little bit doing better than that.
Yeah, I think they've underperformed. I think we were all assuming, okay, the older guys would do what they had to do, but that James Devaney, Kevin Maher, to a lesser extent Eddie Ryan, that they would bring a youthful energy that would maybe drag them along for an extra year or two. And just maybe Devaney and Maher haven't kicked on really. And
well, JD was very good the other day. He scored 3 from place. But I do take your point.
Or maybe the last 2 years, and next year they'll have Paddy McCormick eligible. I know I don't want to be putting it all on a guy who'll be only 18, but he looks, in terms of a guy with size, he should be able to contribute to a decent extent. You can't put weight all on his shoulders. I think they'll still be dangerous. They'll still be dangerous next year. Their junior, their second team are getting stronger at junior level every year, which is a good sign. I suppose they're still in the junior championship, so there's a chance there for maybe some of those guys maybe to maybe claim the limelight over the next few weeks and maybe push themselves into maybe the senior panel for next year.
Yeah, and another good performance from Drom. 3 wins from 3. They look like one of the form teams that a couple of years ago I wasn't sure if they'd be on this trajectory, but it does feel like they're going that way now, and they've young players.
I was remarking after the SARS game. I didn't see this game. I saw the SARS game a few weeks ago. They're a very powerful team, aren't they? They're big men, it's great to see the likes of young Purcell, right wing back. He was on the Tip Miners a few years ago. Seemed to regress, played a bit of, hadn't really done much. Jeez, he looked very good against Thurles. Podge Campion centre back, really good. Not relying on the Johnny Ryans or David Collinses, and finding new fresh blood there. And look, it's great to see Shane Callanan enjoying his hurling again, isn't it? He looks like a player reborn. Like I suppose he didn't have a year with Tipperary. He's enjoying his hurling. That point he got was ridiculous. And I can't remember, was the first or the second half win the
second
system.
half, yeah. Well, that was the thing. Like when Drom needed lads to step up with scores, Johnny Ryan got a couple of nice scores. Callanan got a couple of nice ones late on, and Ray McCormick had done well on him for long spells. Spells he was pretty quiet, but even David Collins getting 1-1. So like they have the young players bringing the energy, and you talked about the physicality there as well, of course. But then the experience that's able to bring them over the line as well. So would you rule them out for a county title this year?
Oh no, I think they're well in there. I wouldn't say. I think they're the farm team, but I don't know if they're the favourites, because I think I think they were disappointing the last few years. Even though I know they got to a semi-final in 2020, but they were well beaten by Kiladangan. I still feel Borris threw away that quarter-final in 2020, the one that went to penalties. Borris probably should have been in that semi-final against Kiladangan. But I always thought for the players they had in the underage quality potentially that I had 4 or 5 years ago, that they were underperforming. But it looks like Brian Boyle and who's the other giant manager there? I can't remember his name, but it looks like they gelled them all together pretty well this year. They're league champions. They've started the year well. They went out and took the league seriously. They gelled together and they've carried that momentum into the championship. So I'd say on form, they're definitely the form team after the group stages so far.
Yeah, I mean, going into that game, they didn't have to win it. They knew that, unless there was an unlikely set of events, they were already through. But Borris definitely had enough chances to win that game. So the other side of it, you saw Thurles and Templederry Kenyans. So was it 219 to 213? 213. Who impressed you?
Yeah, I suppose it was a case of Thurles getting the job done, really. They probably always knew they were going to win it. Maybe I'd give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe they didn't get to the level of intensity of their performance. But look, Templederry, once again, were very, very competitive. Sticking with Thurles Sarsfields, Pat Burke was very, very good corner forward. He got 2-2. Aidan McCormick, 11 points, 5 from play. But I think the big bonus for Sars was Stephen Cahill, middle of the field. He got 4 points. It was his first start of the year. Very, very busy. Looked like a guy that is mad for hurling after missing a good few games. So he's a help there. The two Stapletons were a little quiet. Paddy Creedon, well marked by Liam McCutcheon. Dennis Maher probably had the early advantage on Christy Coughlin, won a penalty. Had another great chance blocked by Coughlin, but after that, Coughlin kept him pretty quiet. Defensively is where Thurles are in a bit of bother. Right, they're already without Paddy, missing Ronan. I think this Sunday might come too soon for Ronan. I think they're hopeful of having him back for a quarter final, and they'll need him. I thought their full back line was very, very exposed. I thought Sean Ryan was terrific now at the weekend. I know he got called in last year and he sort of only got 6 or 7 weeks, but I'd love to see Eoin Kelly giving this guy another chance, because he got 2-5, 2-2 from play. His first goal was brilliant. What a ball 1-on-1, got out in front of him and turned him, stuck it in the top corner. He just said, I just think he needs a chance. I think a right manager over him would get the best out of him in inter-county level. I still think there's a player there. I thought he was terrific, and I just think if Templederry had one more forward to help him out, they were missing Adrian Ryan through injured. If he'd been there, and Templederry had 3 goal chances in the second half when they were on top. If they'd taken 2 of them, that game could have gone down to the wire, and Templederry could have snuck a famous victory like that. There'd be no doubt about it. And I think, staying with Templederry, I think they showed me enough in that performance to say that if they bring that same level of performance in relegation match one, if they need 1 or 2 games, that I think they'll stay up. Look, they were just thrown in a very, very difficult group this year, and look, they were competitive against Thurles, they were competitive against Borris, competitive against Drom. I think, as I said earlier, I think if they put them in a lot of other groups, I think if you put them in the Upper Church Tuivara group, I think they might have even stuck a quarter final. So just a tough group for them this year. But Thurles, sufficient on the day. I think they'll play better. They'll have to play better against Clonolty, but I think they'll have concerns about their full back line. They were exposed and they were overplaying the ball back there. They were taking too many gambles back there, maybe passing back in and fumbling, and they were turned over a couple of times in possession in their own full back line and nearly cost them one goal and should have cost them another couple more.
Yeah, do I remember correctly? Sean Ryan, didn't he take a free against Kerry in that Munster Hurling League and lifted it too far in front of himself, maybe 45 yards out, and a one-handed swing on it and put it over the bar? So that was.
I think it was him, like. So, like, look, a lot of players struggled that day against Kerry. It was his first game. I'm sure he was nervous, like he says. But then
he still knocked it over. To be fair.
Yeah, look, I still think there's a player there. There's like. I think the first couple of weekends, I know people have come saying to me, like, just there's nobody standing out. There's nobody new standing out. And I think people might think, Sean, he's not small. I think I was looking at him at the weekend and it reminded me of Peter Casey. He probably doesn't have the same bag of tricks as Peter Casey, but he's definitely quicker than Peter Casey. So there's a similar type of a player there where he's quicker, but he mightn't have the same level of the jinking left and right, but by God, he's very he can score. That's for certain, and he's not afraid to take his man on, which I don't think we have enough of those type of corner forwards on the Tipperary panel at the moment. Like, I would think I'd love to see him or an Andrew Ormond in a tip panel next year on a dry day where they just give the opposition defender something to think about.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth with Andrew Ormond. Just in terms of the Thurles back, so David Corbett apparently very good, Mark, and James Callan the last day out. What was we've seen James Armstrong with the under-20s. What was he like? He was
good. He sort of anchored the centre back. It was mainly their full back line. Once the ball got in beyond their half back line, were in trouble. Joseph Ryan was taken off at half time. Paul Maher didn't do much better on Sean Ryan in the second half. So look, I know it was Templari's game plan was more or less try and isolate maybe Sean Ryan one-on-one, and it worked. In fairness, once he got the ball in his hand, their full back line really. They've really sort of panicked a small bit. Like, they're both 2 or 3 inside full backs were booked as well. Towards the end, there was a sort of, if Conor Luby just temporarily got the ball. If he had a small bit more composure, they could have been in for another goal as well. So, like, there was just, I think that will have. I can't see their defence being strong enough to win a county championship without Ronan Maher being back. I know Michael Cahill is getting closer too. He was on the subs bench over the weekend, didn't get brought on. So it would be surprised me if they're vulnerable, they might have to go back to the experience of Michael to maybe the legs mightn't be there like they were in his prime, but I'm sure his hurling brain would get him out of a lot of tricky situations when it came to it.
Yeah, in Group 3, Upperchurch finished top with 3 wins from 3. They have the best defence across the 4 groups with just 51 points conceded. So that's just 17 per game. They only conceded 16 against Toom. Now 116 to 16 points. Very poor conditions. Game seemed to lack an awful lot of intensity, but Toom were ahead at half-time 8-6, but they kept hitting ball on top of Gavin Ryan, who was kind of standing in the pocket at number 6. And ultimately, that was key to the goal that Upperchurch got in 33 minutes, because I think he cut out a ball, went up the other end of the field, and Paddy Green finished it. And he could have had another goal a few minutes later in the 44th minute. I thought Jack Butler was quite good up front. Didn't always go over the bar for him when he was taking his shots, but he was finding the runners coming through. Kevin McCarthy struggled a little bit on the freeze for Toom. Not the only player this weekend to do that. But Upperchurch are through, Toom are through. And then Holy Cross against Mullinahone. I mean, did you see that coming? Holy Cross 126, Mullinahone 16 points. Injuries or no injuries? That's
I did. I would have had a small wager on Holy Cross to win that match last weekend. I'd seen enough in Mullinahone this year to say that they weren't at the same level as they were the last couple of years, even the year they won the Orient Cup. They were just lacking that bit of energy in their play this year. I don't know whether they're playing a different style of hurling or not, but it just didn't seem to be coming together. Holy Cross, I thought Holy Cross for 3/4 of the match against Toomevara were the better team. Just missed the penalty in the middle of the second half, which probably could have put them out of sight. And typically, like Toom, if you allow Toomevara to hang in a match, they'll just get a purple patch on you, and that's what happened. And maybe Tumivara, probably when I know there was simultaneous throw-ins last Saturday, maybe Toom got wind early that Holy Cross were in a strong lead against Mullinahone, so they weren't under serious pressure to get the win against Upper Church. But I suppose Toom probably, I think, are they, maybe along with Nina, maybe the lowest seeded team left in it, maybe in terms of what they got in the Group 3. They got 3 points out of 6. I would, maybe if you were to rank the 10 teams, I would say maybe Tumivara could be potentially maybe the weakest, maybe the 10th at the moment. I think they're showing flashes, but I know we were saying it off air beforehand. They're a very un-Tumivara team. They're workmanlike. They don't really have stars, if you know what I mean. Would you think so? Like they're a very even bunch.
Yeah, I mean, Mark McCarthy scored a couple of nice sidelines towards the end, and there's like David Young displays the odd moments in different games.
Like they're very they're not reliant on any one player, like, but they could do it. They could do it 1 or 2 players being a fulcrum of the team, couldn't they?
Yeah, they're definitely just a very even sort of workmanlike bunch, and not too many stars. But look, there's still time for a few stars to appear, so we'll see as the year goes on. Kiladangan beat JK Brackens 313 to 114, so that's Kiladangan top of the group there. They're through with Lockmore, who beat Éire Óg by 4 points. But JK Brackens started this game very well, and they had a goal early on when Andrew Orman flicked one into the net after, I think there was a long sideline from Shane Doyle, and it ended up getting broken, and he knocked it into the net. And it was one of a number of things that Andrew Orman had done early on, which showed that sort of inter-county quality of class and touch about him. But after that goal went in, Kiladangan just took over, and for the remainder of the game, there was no doubt who was bossing the team. And it was the manner of them taking over the game. And I'm not even sure if JK Bracken scored again before half-time after getting that goal midway through the first half. They just took over. Joe Gallagher scored a lovely goal in the second half. Paul Flynn with a lovely stick pass over the top set up the third goal during the second half, completely finished it off. So to me, it just seemed like Kiladangan were always in control, and it was one of those sort of composed performances that a team that's going places tend to have. Now, at the same time, Lyndon Fairbrother had 2 good half chances for goals in the second half, didn't take either one. But I thought that was quite impressive from Kiladangan.
Yeah, they've won their group. They haven't lost. The only game they've lost with Sanina, but I would have I've seen Kiladangan for a long number of years. They haven't sparked into top gear yet. Maybe it's coming. I know. Look, they've been sort of blooding players this year, bringing in like the Tom O'Mara, John O'Mara coming in. Willie Connors is coming back from injury. Declan McGrath started his first game last weekend. I see Dara Flannery played for their Premier Intermediate team at the weekend, so he's coming back. So look, they're hoping to time it to peak in October, and they're still going to be hard to beat. Like you still have like Brian Murlockney scoring well. Joe Gallagher has said that was a brilliant goal he got. I think it was the second goal. Brilliant finish. Like Ty Gallagher's probably. I'd say Ty Gallagher's arguably their best player this year. He's having a fine season in the middle of the field. So look, I still in terms of panel depth, they're probably still the strongest. But I just think they're not moving the ball around as crisply as other years. Like they were always brilliant at moving the ball quickly, moving the ball into pockets of space, and very, very good at putting maybe heading into the 20s in terms of their scoring. Like 313 it's not heavy scoring for a Kiladangan team. It's only 16 scores. I know Bracken sort of play a very, how would you say, they like to crowd that middle third, so it's not as easy to get quality ball into forwards. But look, Kiladangan are still there. Their top seeds have only lost 1 game all year, and that was late on against Nina. So look, they're still hard to beat, but I still think they need to discover a small bit more to win the championship. I know they're favourites with the bookies, and maybe because they've won it there before, most recently, apart from Lockmore, they're there. But I still think there's something not quite. There's something that spark that I would have seen them in their pomp is just missing at the moment.
Yeah, but I don't know. Sometimes it just takes one performance to ignite them. To bring even like Willie Connors isn't all that long back from injury, so like there's more in him. There's definitely more in Alan Flynn. Like these lads played fine at the weekend, but I think there's more in them
Like
Billy
Paul
Seymour.
Flynn. Paul Flynn is as quiet as I've seen him in a club championship campaign now in years. Dan O'Mara has gone off the vial.
Yeah, he has. But like at the same time, Paul Flynn scored a goal. He pounced on a mistake from Paddy Cadell for the first one. There was no doubt he was going to finish it. The way he set up the third goal. So there was definite positives there. But like J.K. Brackens, now I mentioned that Cadell had a mistake for that goal that Paul Flynn got early on in the game. But again, with so many players injured for next year, obviously the two cruciates and Dylan Quirk no longer going to be involved, obviously. Cadell will most likely get his chance next year in the half back line where he should have been all along whenever he was being tried. But I think
Cahill knows him from there too. Like, and I didn't see the game, but the man of the match from our match report was Cadell. So I think on a losing team, he must have been very, very good to get that.
Yeah, it's just the way that he cruises out with the ball and bounces off whoever comes and gets in his way, and like the way modern intercounty hurling and club hurling is. You need your half back line being able to walk out with the ball, being able to draw a man and move it up the field. And the way he even delivers it up the field as well, it's usually fairly sympathetic to the forward. So that's one of the reasons that I'd be very interested to see how much opportunity he gets next year. But Lockmore, like you said, they have the injuries, but they're still flying, they're still motoring.
Yeah, they are. Like they got through against Anacarty at the weekend by 4 points, but I suppose the big plus for them, Kieran Connolly coming off the bench 10 minutes to go, scores 2 points in play. So like that's a big shove on. I think look, they were without Ed Connolly or without John McGrath, but it's good to see the likes of Kieran McCormack having a big game. Like they need guys to fill gaps. Like they're still going to be relying on the same 16, 17, 18 guys. And look, they're unbeaten in the group stage, 1 win and 2 draws. Like I still think it's hard to see. I don't know, can they win it? But if they do fall on their sword, they're going to go out very narrowly. If it's going to be, they just have that experience in the memory bank. They just know what it takes, and they will be the team. They'll be the team. None of the top seeds will want to draw in the quarterfinal because they just have it in the memory bank, don't they?
Yeah, they do, to be fair to them. But J.K. Brackens against Nina, what way would you be edging there?
It's a tricky one. This is a contrast in styles game for me now. Like this is Brackens. I would say they play the same way hurling and football. They're compact. They like to work the ball up the field, crowd the middle third. Nina like to play the opposite, get it, move it into space, long and direct. So how Nina will be able to detail that crowded middle third will be interesting. I think
who marks Jake Morris? You bring Conor Cadell back into the backs to maybe mark him?
I don't know. I don't think Conor would have the physicality to go with him. I think maybe Tom Murphy could be the man there. That'll be a serious battle. I think I did have it in my preview this week that like they're himself and Andrew Ormond, Morris and Ormond, 2 county under 21 teammates. I think whoever wins that battle will be the one that could see their team. I think Nina have the greater firepower. I think Nina maybe find a way to win. I think the match being in Semple Stadium will suit Nina more than maybe playing it in a regional ground or maybe be slightly more compact. Wouldn't surprise me if Brackens won it. I think it'll be very, very tight. Marginally giving it to Nina, just maybe because of Mikey, Tommy Heffernan, and maybe a bit slightly more scoring threat. Like you look at Andrew Ormond. After that, you're maybe looking at Fairbrother from Freeze. Shane Doyle on his day can be very, very good. I suppose if Brackens can get enough sideline balls, Shane Doyle will be good for 3 or 4 of them in the match too. So no, I think this is going to be a very, very tight one.
Yeah, and we're probably looking at SARS just about edging out Clonoulty, but again, depending on how it goes, this could be very tight.
Yeah, no, I would have said SARS, and I think they'll be better than they were against Tipperary because it's knockout. There'll be a better edge to their game. But Clonoulty, this match being in Holy Cross, Clonoulty is a tighter field. Clonoulty are a big team, so they'll be able to get physical with Thurles. They'll be able to close down the space. And look, if Stephen Fern come down, Slattery, Carl Burke, controlling Conor Hammersley, maybe if he's able to get back from America, if they get enough ball into that full forward line, and if Thurles' full back line are still as vulnerable, like Clonoulty will feel they can get the scores. I still think Thurles Thurles will be favourites to get through, but I think it'll be. I think if it is Clonoti to go out with their boots on. I think there was people were wondering why this game is not in Semple Stadium. I think Clonoti have expressed the wish not to play it in there at the moment. I'm sure they're still decent with trauma, and I'm sure they don't want to go back in maybe until absolutely necessary. And I don't think Thurles Arseneals would have forced the issue either.
It's totally understandable.
Yeah, and look, it'll be probably a cracking atmosphere out in Holy Cross, tight field, big crowd. It'll probably generate a better atmosphere maybe than the games in the stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship. Group 1, Burgess 23 points, St Mary's 14, and Sean Tracy's 122, Newport 411. So Sean Tracy's winning there. That means St Mary's finished top on 4 points. Burgess and Tracy's both finish on 3, but Burgess just ahead, and Newport finished bottom there on 2 points. Any comment on that particular group, or continue going through the?
Yeah, no, just a quick one. I suppose great for Burgess to get through, but they did get a big slice of fortune in the fact that St Mary's, who had already qualified as group winners, they rested Seamus Kennedy and they rested Peter McGarry because Mary's had a South under-19 final on the Sunday, and you think, well, their score difference, I think in the end, was 6 points better than Tracy's. You think if Mary's had their full strength team, would Mary's have won? Would have been a tighter game? It was just unlucky on Tracy's. For them to beat their great rivals Newport in the stadium was a big win for them. And just I sort of be sickened for them to have had a win like that and not enough to qualify. And then he maybe hear that maybe St Mary's didn't go all in against Burgess. Was looking fairest to Mary's. They've got to do what they have to do for their club, and it worked out for Burgess on the day. And look, Burgess still had to go out and win the game, and they did it. Stephen Murray, Stephen Kerwin, big games. Dunamaher, big games, and that's what Burgess are in the preliminary quarter final. They got drawn in one of those matches next weekend against Clonakilty, so they've got to go again. But I suppose frustrating for Newport in relegation for the second year in a row after being in a semi-final 2 years ago. So they've got to pick themselves up for a few weeks' time.
Yeah, for sure. Group 2, Silvermines beat Kiladangan B 15 points to 13, and Roscrea had a big enough win over Mine Tebeltui 317 to 115. So just in terms of the group, Roscrea top, 3 wins from 3. Silvermines finished second on 4 points, Mine on 2, and Kiladangan, they finished bottom, losing 3 games from 3.
Yeah, Roscrea still going along nicely, 3 wins from 3. I suppose got the win they were expected. Always had Mine at arm's length. There were always a bit 3 or 4 points between the teams until Roscrea got a late goal. I suppose big boost for Roscrea would be Alan Tynan started his first game this year, so you think get another 3 weeks training into him, he'll be better. I still think they needed more. I thought they were maybe a bit reliant on Shane Fletcher maybe through the earlier match. They were putting an awful lot of the play through him. So if you have Tynan there now, it sort of breaks it up. You have Evan Fitzpatrick, who's very, very good scoring as well. So look, they'll be hard to beat now. They're still there's a top seed, and Silvermines got through in second place. 2 late points to beat Kiladangan. So they've played 2 very, very tight games this year. So maybe Silvermines will go better, maybe playing a team they're not aware of, and they've been drawn in preliminary quarter final against the Swan next weekend. So it's a very, very tricky game. I think they seem to have gone off the boil a small bit. Silvermines, they're not scoring as heavily as they were in the last few games. And look, the Swan lost 3 games in their group, but they're still South champions. They still bet Mullinahone and St Mary's in the South, and if they rediscovered their bit of a spark, if maybe 1 win could get them going, and look, the Swan are under pressure, because if the Swan don't win the county final, they go back into relegation because they finish bottom in their group. So it's all I think that's one of the bigger games next weekend with what's at stake when the Swan play Silvermines on Saturday.
Yeah, Group 3, Gortnahoe Glengool beat Ballina 215 to 29, and Thurles Sarsfields B beat Killinall 24 points to 20, and Bubbles broke his hand during that, so obviously that didn't do Killinall much good there. Gortnahoe and Thurles through there on 6 points and 3 points.
Yeah, I think Roscrea and Cashel are probably the favourites in many people's eyes. I think the form team in the group stage has been Gortnahoe. They've just been very, very good. I think that was in a group of Kiladangan and Thurles. Like Thurles they just have players coming out their ears. I see their junior A team are in a mid-final this weekend, and their junior B team are in a mid-final. They just showed they have 4 adult teams, and they're probably, I'd say they could find the 5th team if they fielded 2. Like, there's just have players coming from everywhere. But I think Gortnahu, they're my dark horse now, because they just have fitted in so comfortably at this level. Cian Hayes, Ronan Tehan, they've just Kevin Slatter, they're going about their business quietly, and they're just one of those teams that maybe people are not giving enough credit to at this stage. And like Thurles Sarsfields B, well, none of the top seeds will want them either in the draw. Like, you're thinking, okay, that you can't draw Gortnahu, so you've Ross Gray, Cashel, and Ross Gray, Cashel, and who am I thinking of? Like, they'll be difficult, because like I think they've already used about 18 or 19 guys at senior level, so they'll have their same panel together at Premier Intermediate level, so they'll be dangerous.
So, and then Group 4, just to go through the results: Cashel beat Carrick Swan 215-29. Portrue 321. Clonakilty 414. So Cashel and Portrue are 2 there in first and second position, 6 points and 4 points. Then we move on to the Intermediate Championship.
Yeah, just to wrap up in that group, like Cashel did what they had to do. I suppose it was a dead rubber game, but they'll be delighted. Like, they're unbeaten in the championship. I suppose they're gelling all the time. So I think they're maybe there might be marginal favourites at this stage over from Ross Gray and Gortnahu. I think they'll be my top 3. Portrue, typical Port, got the last 5 points of the match to get through against Clonakilty. I think Clonakilty are probably the unluckiest team not to get through from the group stages. I think they've done an awful lot of hurling just to have to fall back and getting a preliminary quarter final. And I think that match with Burgess this week, next Sunday in the stadium, a preliminary game, that'll be a terrific game. Both teams have plenty of forward talent, so I think it'd be tight. I went for Clonakilty in my preview. I just think they've been unlucky. Like, they could easily have 3 wins from 3 in this group and be sitting pretty. It's just maybe it's a flaw in their team that maybe they're not getting over the line late on, and maybe that could catch them again. But they're playing well enough to have more than what they've had in the group stage.
Yeah, okay, we'll go through the Intermediate Championship in the same way now. Group 1, Capawhite beat Ballingarry by 8 points, 121-113. And Moneygall had another win there, beating Ballybacon Grange 216-16 points. So Moneygall are through on top with 3 wins from 3, and Capawhite are also through. So just Moneygall going well.
Yeah, going well, and didn't seem to have Joe forward here, Sean Kelly, on the score sheet last week. And it was a dead rubber game anyway for both sides. So look, they're definitely getting stronger with each passing game. They're through. Capawhite, big win over Ballingarry. Like, so Ballingarry just a disappointing year. But Capawhite in there into a quarter final now. Looking dangerous now. They have Willie Barry, Rian Doody, Ryan Renahan. They have plenty of good quality forwards there, and if it clicks on the day, they could cause trouble. But I suppose just the manner of the big defeat against Moneygall in round 2, maybe it was disappointing for them. But look, they would have just wanted to get to a knockout stage. They're there now, and as I say, if you can produce a big performance on any day, you can get through to the semi-final.
Yeah, Group 2 then, Skeena-Rinky beat Ballynahinch 114-15, and Borris Canes off Knockavilla by 218-116. But Knockavilla still go through. Skeena-Rinky are top with 3 wins from 3, but Knockavilla, Borris Cane, Ballynahinch all finished on 2 points, and Knockavilla are going through. So
no, it's
no.
Knockavilla and Borris Cane have to play off next Saturday because
do they? Because their score difference is the same, isn't it?
They're tied on because it's 3-way tie with Ballynahinch. It went to score difference, so Ballynahinch at -4, Borris and Kickham's are tied at -2. Then you go to total scores for Borris and Kickham's were tied in +66. So there's no other option but to go to a rematch. So they've got to play again next Saturday evening in Borris. So to decide, and the frustrating part of it is that Kickham's already have a preliminary quarter final anyway because they were West champions, and they they were 6 points down, I think, with the last puck of the game. They got a point to brought back to lose by 5. And that 1 point has created this playoff, whereas they'd lost by 6, Borris would have got through in second and Kickham's would have been in preliminary quarterfinals. So, but it's I suppose it's Borris again who have it all to play for this week. And look, great win for Borris. Like, after losing their 2 previous games, coming in with no form, no Gary Ryan in their team, they won it. Now they have Gary Ryan back for suspension for the rematch next weekend. You'd fancy them maybe to win that and get through to a quarter final. And it's like anything at this stage. I thought they were championship contenders at the start and just lost their way in the North semi-final against the Shannon Rovers. But the time to hit your momentum is now. And if they pick up another win over Kickham's, they're into a quarter final, 2 wins in a row, getting their best team back on the field. Nobody wants to play them.
Okay, Group 3, Arravale Rovers beat Shannon Rovers 316 to 119, and Drom and Inch's second team drew with Kilsheal and Kilcash 114 to 17 points. But both of those latter 2 teams there, Drom and Inch and Kilsheal and Kilcash, are going to go through. And I might as well just give you Group 4, seeing as you don't have to focus too. If I mention 2 groups, you don't have to focus too much on your Lura team. But Lura beat Borlahan 218 to 118, and Golden Kilfeacle saw off Carrick Davins 114 to 14 points. So you're not looking too bad.
I know it was definitely our Laura's sternest test of the year so far. So I think all the other wins were double digits. This was a lot tougher. It took, I think, a couple of late points to get us over the line. But Borlahan were very, very good. They were missing a couple of players also through injury, and that they're a team that whose better days are lying ahead. They're building from a young base. So and just Borlahan probably knew it was a shot to nothing as well. Like, they were underdogs there. They weren't given much of a chance. And plus, they already had a preliminary quarterfinal secured as mid-champions. And look, I saw enough of them and some of their performers. They were very, very good, particularly on the breaking ball. And like, none of the second place teams would want to play them in a preliminary quarterfinal. There's an energy about them that will carry them an awful long way and make them very, very difficult for any opponent. Yeah.
So, anything else you want to touch on before we finish up?
No, I suppose it feels like it's last weekend felt like it was when the championship really kicked into gear. Like, it was, I think it was. I was hearing a lot that the championship really hadn't gotten going. I don't know whether it was why that was, but I suppose we got to the last round of the group stages, and there was a bit more pressure. Now we're into the knockout stages, and you probably think summer holidays are over now. Like, everybody at the weekend should be going to a club game, whether it's knockout or maybe going as a neutral, and you're getting a bit closer than maybe to inter-county training and who's Liam Cahill looking for as well. And it's sure, we're into preliminaries this weekend, so that's when I suppose the intensity levels really should lift a notch from here.
Yeah, it's hard to share your enthusiasm because Borris are gone though. I mean, just if I'm to be selfish about it. Right, well, that's it from the show today. Don't forget, follow the channel on YouTube there and all the different social channels. And don't forget to pick up a copy of the paper, which is out every Wednesday. Thanks very much, Shane. We'll do it again soon.
Catch you later.